Good morning, Trumptopia. A special segment of the Almost Daily Zencast. I'm your host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. It's Friday, March 6th, 6 a.m. Pacific time, just about, give or take 7 minutes. And here we are. Keeps turning, friends, and the melodrama that is politics keeps on politicking. Welcome, folks, to another episode of the Almost Daily Zencast. Thank you for tuning in. What the clusterfuck of crazy is going on? Right? Like, seriously, I wake up most these days and I have to really check, like, the what the fuck meter. Because some days it feels like it's broken. And yet the world goes on. So I was today, actually, this is not true. I realized this a long time ago. Back when smartphones weren't so smart. But a lovely reminder floating around on the interwebs today that smartphones are giant petri dishes of gross. The dirtiest things you own, with more germs crawling on them than the average bunghole licking dog mouth or public toilet. Woo! Hooray! Your phone is dirtier than your average toilet. Apparently, according to this thing I saw on Mashable. And it came with very detailed instructions on how to mitigate the situation with some low-tech, do-it-yourself phone cleaning. So let's get on that, folks, because that's gross, and we don't need that in the world. We don't need everybody's pockets full of supercomputing petri dishes, because, you know, that's how the renegade droid robot germs happen. I don't know. It's a strange day. It's a strange time. We got first ladies arguing about cyberbullying. We have the first cyberbully in chief cyberbullying the world. We have this amazing, delightfully adorable kerfuffle over COVID-19. There's a lot of virtue signaling going on. There's a lot of disinformation being flung about. There's a lot of conspiracy theory being bandied about as if it were fact. Here are a few things that I don't think are real. Just in case you were wondering if you should consider the following issues, think them through for yourself. But hopefully you'll realize that there is such a thing as stupid obvious psyop. COVID-19 does not cause zombieism. If it did, we would already be like balls deep in zombies. Okay? And I can't believe that this is still going around. Like, the first 3 days, yeah, maybe this time we found the zombie germ. But really? Like, 3 months into it, and it's really just, like, we can get some actual science now, folks. And I know there's a whole bunch of you out there in the world that categorically reject science. And then believe in things that only science could prove. So pick a lane, bro, on that one, because y'all aren't making sense. Second of all, if it can actually be measured and it can actually be duplicated and confirmed, what are you disbelieving? Like that's what a fact is, right? Like a person is 7 foot tall. Might be hard to believe because you've never met a 7 foot tall person, but once you and 3 of your friends all take 3 different tape measures and measure the motherfucker and go, yeah, he's 6'9 3/4, but that's fucking close enough. And we all confirmed it. We can all check it. We can all go, yeah, that's 6'9 3/4. Might as well say 7 foot tall. There are such things in the world, is what I'm saying. And while science is no perfect instrument, either in the theoretical nor in the practical, it is, like any other human endeavor, not an absolute monolithic obelisk of a thing. So there's a lot of great science, there's a lot of shitty science, there's a lot of corrupt science, there's a lot of straight shooting just the facts ma'am kind of science. And if you categorically reject science like some people do nowadays, then get the fuck off your cell phones and stop using the internet. If you hate socialism and all sort of social safety net things, then stop cashing your Social Security check. What do you want from me? How's about this, folks? Let's connect some dots, right? What is it that we are usually arguing about? Say it with me. Ideology. And what is it we should be paying more attention to? Reality as it actually exists beyond the definitions of ideology. Right? From toilet cell phones to the total abdication of ideology, all in the first 7 minutes of the episode. Boom! It's like I do the whole show, every episode, in some sort of like recap version every day. No, I don't know. In other bizarre, interesting news, apparently Xbox is going to come out with a super new Xbox that's cheap as opposed to expensive. Isn't that great? That's what we need more of, right? Cheap computer things that are super cool, that distract us from how everything we build is slowly destroying the world. Yay! So, where are we? What's going on? Let's zoom out, right? Let's zoom back. Let's take a quick hot look at what some of the more recent craziness in the real life world we all share might actually be. Fact checkers have fact checked for the umpteenth time the great orange president. I keep trying to think of some clever yet not too terribly disrespectful way of introducing him, and I can't think of it. So I always encourage people to check out the fact-checky type articles because, you want to stay on top of it, and you don't want to get gaslit by people who say things that aren't true with such confidence that you're like, oh, maybe that is true. Like very recently, Trump supporters were saying that he personally signed a peace deal with the Taliban. No, he didn't. I mean, that's a verifiable fact, which we can look up right now if you really want me to. But, some emissaries, some people representing the two groups signed a peace treaty. Donald Trump wasn't there. But his supporters are saying it like he deserves to be praised like some sort of messiah, as if he'd physically met with the Taliban himself in some, cinematic action sequence of adventure out in the Middle East somewhere. And he didn't. He totally didn't. So facts matter, phrasing matters, and I've avoided talking about it much because I have a very nuanced and complex opinion about what's going on with COVID-19, coronavirus. And I understand that at a fundamental level, lives are at stake. No one wants to lose a loved one, right? No one wants even their most annoying relative to suddenly be life-threateningly ill with something stupid that might cost them their lives. That's no fun. And I understand that. And I don't mean any disrespect. But also, I think this is also true and worth contemplating and really sort of wrapping our brains around. Death, and this sounds like a horrible thing to say out loud, but if you really get zen with it, you understand that it's profound and kind of beautiful, actually. Death is a prerequisite for life. Now, that doesn't mean we should go out and kill each other, right? Duh, obviously. In fact, aren't we pacifists here? Aren't we about being peaceful? Of course we are, supposedly. At least some of us are. In all earnestness, though, like, we cannot have life as we understand it, as it functions normally, without death. They are a mutually required components of a very complex equation. But to put it quite bluntly, everybody dies, no one gets out of here alive. So, understanding that, honoring the personal tragedies for what they are, but also zooming out and looking at a bigger perspective, it is tragically, to me, painfully obvious that a multi-pronged and concerted effort to be both fear-mongering and also sort of casually dismissive of this situation, of this COVID-19 corona novel virus, or novel coronavirus novel, and that these efforts are being implemented at various levels, I think, but I think that the critical part is to really look at it and understand that, like, some of this stuff that's being peddled is such nonsense. It shouldn't be given, the airtime. It shouldn't be given the plausibility of being shared. Like, the zombie one, come on, folks. Seriously? Also, the LG, the G5 conspiracy twist on coronavirus, like, it's bad enough, and I'm not defending. I've had to literally type this out at people who misunderstand or take, an inch and run for a mile. I'm not defending 5G, G5, 5G, the network. Like, everything we do today is toxic. The coffee I drank this morning, toxic. The devices I'm looking at as I prepare to do this show, toxic. The industrial machinations required for me to be able to talk into, as Lord Xeris describes it, an evil demon box full of lightning. Toxic, right? Going to the supermarket is toxic. And someone called me naive, and I'm like, no. It is the height of naivete to think that you getting inside your little mini explosion combustion engine death box and, like, air polluting your way across town to a central hub of massive air polluting, combustion engine delivery routes. It's like, hello, take your blinders off. Everything we do is so toxic that we can't even provide fresh, healthy, clean drinking water to ourselves. We've toxified everything so hard, right? So why am I rambling about that? Because for as scary as any of the circumstances, any of the factual circumstances about coronavirus may be, as much as it may be a pretty gnarly, cousin to the flu, it isn't just the flu. That's an incorrect, technically inaccurate statement. It also isn't very much different than the flu. That is a technically correct thing to say. This is one of the great ironies, right? On the right, in that echo chamber of echo chambers, the relationship between coronavirus and its more common cousins is being used as a means by which to dismiss and minimize the concern level. Now, that's either supposed to literally dumb down people and get them, like, why is Donald Trump talking about going to work if you're sick? And, like, if you have the common cold, you're supposed to stay home and, like, stay the fuck out of my shared space so that I don't get sick at work. Because that costs everybody money. That costs the individual workers money in like lost wages, in lost, all kinds of inconveniences. And of course, the capitalists, right? The capitalists, the owners, the slave drivers lose money when, but that's still what you're supposed to do. And he's like, it's fine. Everyone can just go to work. Whatever he said, that was stupid. And it's not some arbitrary random thing that he alone does. It's a systematic echo chamber of one side is going out of their way to be slightly more alarmist than necessary, because coronavirus is indeed, like, it is a family of viruses, plural, right? Viri. It is a collection of similar entities, for lack of a better term, all of which are related to one another, right? And on the left, it's being used as a statement of fact that is to be, treated like the very reason why it should be scary, right? Why you should be worried, why you should be prepping, because it is akin to the flu. It is similar to, but different enough from the common cold that we could confuse it for those things, for the basic flu, for the basic cold, and neglect it, ignore it, and do something dumb like just go to work and suffering through, my seasonal cold, when in reality we're infecting. We are acting as a very active vector of infection when we do such thoughtless, careless things. So the two sides are sort of simultaneously stoking the fires of paranoia and also dismissing the whole thing. And I find it fascinating. I find the entire handling of how, as a nation state, Trumptopia has handled this onset of a disease quite redonkadonk. Like, it's just beyond absurd. The simple fact that we went to the trouble of isolating and quarantining people in two places in California, and then immediately violated quarantine protocol with those two groups of people. by sending HHS staffers that were undertrained and under-equipped for no reason into a quarantined protocol situation, and, you know, allowing them to violate all the things that make quarantine, and then take commercial flights home. It's as if they wanted, whoever they are, to let coronavirus, COVID-19, spread as much as possible. Simultaneously, right? So in the mainstream, it's being played up and played down at the simplest level. Oh, this is a really gnarly version of this is super gnarly compared to the flu. Oh, this is just another version of the flu. Causing confusion, causing like a, half state of delirious fear, and another sort of partial state of dismissive, don't give a fuck. You add that an ever-increasing number of ridiculous and outlandish and implausible conspiracy theories, like COVID-19 is not a disease, it's a nanobot technology that is designed to be activated by 5G, and like, wait, what? If that were true, why wasn't the Super Bowl some movie moment epicenter of everyone falling over sick with coronavirus that next day, right? Now, for those of you who didn't catch it, in the Super Bowl, according to the NFL things disclaimered during the show, the showing of the actual Super Bowl, and I could be wrong. If I'm wrong about this, I apologize. But I seem to very distinctly recall them promoting and advertising the fact that the stadium had been retrofitted, and completely like geared out with 5G, and that everything from the big screens to the free Wi-Fi to the cell phone coverage in there was all running on 5G, and that it was, a super sexy way to showcase 5G and its superpowers. So now, like I said, I'm not defending 5G. Everything in our society is toxic. But is it an evil, malicious death ray that's going to activate nanobots that eat our brains? No. That's stupid sounding. It's really unlikely that we have that level of technology, despite whatever. I just saw a thing yesterday, totally unrelated, but also part of the same general, milieu, that, and this is nonsense. And I know it's not true because, it's like, if it were out there and it was like a verifiable thing, we would have seen it forever ago. But we didn't. It just came out recently. This is up there in my opinion, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. This is just my opinion, right? But this new conspiracy theory that I just recently saw, it's new to me anyways, is up there with something as absurd as birds are fake. And that's a thing that people believe. Now, somebody tried to explain to me dismissively that the birds are fake conspiracy theory is satire. I'm like, if it's satire, you better explain that to a bunch of people posting it, because they don't get that it's satire. They're telling me birds are not real, okay? And that I'd better fucking get awoke enough to realize that birds are not real, that they're all some sort of evil government conspiracy of automata. Okay, this other one is up there with as absurd. Like, no, I really don't think that technology was available. And it's like too factually implausible. And again, like, if it was super real, why didn't this come out sooner? Why is it so ridiculously late in the game? But according to this image I saw floating on Facebook being shared by someone that I'm clearly associated with, the CIA had dragonfly-sized insect drones with full-blown James Bond spy technology. I'm like, bro, like, we hadn't even figured out how to make TVs, smaller than a fucking, bread box yet. Like, it seems easy to think of technology like that now, but we literally are living in the future. And in the 70s, I could be wrong, but I really, really doubt it. It's the level of implausibility is too high for me. And this brings me to an interesting point. Right, how do I know? I could be wrong. To the best of my ability to check, which is based on my limited perspective of having been alive for the last couple of minutes of the late 70s and, conscious and aware of what's going on in the world in all through the 80s, and being there to visually, like, witness the level of technology that we had. It's too unlikely. Now, obviously, that can be said about just about any conspiracy theory, right? Like, anybody can dismiss a conspiracy theory as saying, well, it's too improbable to be real. And that's always sort of been a catch-22 of conspiracy theory. But, and forgive me if I've already, announced this on the show, but it is my humble opinion that the conspiracy theory community, like political ideological community, like organized religious community, like so many other things in our toxic world, it has been hijacked and infiltrated and is being used to pump out nonsense, psyop garbage that people will bite into and fall for, hook, line, and sinker, and spread as if it were gospel truth, and muddy the waters, right? So, blessed be the fact checkers, those who slog through statements made by important, people in the public realm and try to confirm, verify, and or deny such statements based on available facts. So, here's where we're at, to come full circle. Everybody calm the fuck down. As I've always said, the genius behind Trump's madness is that he will take a thing that is generally true and wrap it up in so much bullshit. And he will take a thing that's bullshit, like totally bullshit, and wrap it up in just enough truth, right? Yes, it is true that many, a common human disease, ebb and flow with the seasons. So we can indeed hope for some sort of seasonal ebb. But what he's omitting there is none of those things magically disappear. They just ebb and flow around you and either impact you or don't. That's important, right? Here's the other thing. And this is one of the fun facts about conspiracy theory that conspiracy theorists, members of the community, tend to chuck right out the window. And I'm sorry. You can disagree with me all you want, but I do personally believe that the following statement is Occam's razor proof. Like, it's the simplest thing. If nature has the capacity to, the willingness to, and has proven herself capable of doing a thing, then you don't need a redonkadonk human conspiracy for it to happen. As seductive and cool as the redonkadonk human conspiracy theory might be, if Mother Nature has the capacity to do it, she don't need your crazy theory about a bunch of rich elites doing it. And here's what I mean by that. It fascinates me to no end that human beings are today more programmatically inclined. In other words, they've been conditioned to such a level. Because mind you, remember, no one in this world escaped conditioning. Anyone patting themselves on the back for being woke is probably fooling themselves, because the conditioning goes deep, right? I don't pretend to be free of it. I'm not making some bullshit claim that everybody was immersed in societal norm conditioning. That's how society works. We have been conditioned to such a degree that it's easier, and this is silly, right? This is crazy. It's easier to believe that, and I'm not saying one thing or the other, I'm just saying that if Mother Nature can do it, she doesn't need the human conspiracy. But it's easier for people to believe that a virus like COVID-19 was maliciously, super villainously developed in a lab on purpose for the nefarious agenda of wiping out everybody. And while that's not impossible, it's also easier to fake than actually do. That's, I think, a valid statement. Almost anything that in the conspiracy theory community, like in the swamp that is all conspiracy theories, most of that content is easier to fake than actually do. And people will believe the fakery, right? I mean, isn't that the center, one of the central pillars of the moon landing fake argument? Like, the moon landing is fake. Why? Because it was easier to fake than actually do? Okay, let's assume that's true, that something is easier to fake than actually do. Then isn't it likely that they just faked it instead of actually did it? Yes. Doesn't that mean that most of the conspiracy theories that you believe in are more likely to be, are more actually plausible as fake theories than real theories? Catch 22 right there, right? I propose to you, dear friends, make up words here. I propose to you, dear friends and listeners, that indeed the crazier shit that comes out of the conspiracy theory nexus is easier to fake vis-a-vis just writing a bunch of bullshit and photoshopping a bunch of bullshit than it is to actually have been done. And Mother Nature makes diseases. Full stop, period. Has been doing so for a long time before mankind developed the capacity. Now, I'm not dismissing mankind's capacity to engineer some crazy, gnarly shit. Of course humankind, has that capacity. But so has, forever, Mother Nature. And she has engineered some gnarly ass shit without our help. Without our technology, without our laboratories, Mother Nature knows how to kill a fool with little tiny invisible thingy germs. She doesn't need our help. So why is it so implausible to people that they must believe that it had to have been made artificially? right? Why is it so implausible to people that Mother Nature just cranks out disease because we don't have any other naturally occurring predators? Huh? Why aren't people stopping to think about that? We've butchered ourselves and each other and other life forms. We've butchered our way to the top. Nothing predates us, and I don't mean predates us. Nothing is a predator that relies on us for its food. And I've talked about this before. That may have been a huge mistake. I know that sounds crazy. It's so much less stressful to live in a world without 2-3 different creatures needing to eat you all the time. But evolutionarily speaking, when it comes to nature and what is actually organically natural and what is not, maybe, just maybe, we were better off with predators eating us for lunch every once in a while. It's scary shit, right? But I digress. My point is, don't underestimate Mother Nature. She will, should it be necessary, destroy us all. And that should be a sobering thought that makes us really, 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 it should make us anyways, doesn't seem to be actually doing it. It should make us really, really urgently interested in realigning ourselves with Mother Nature. As opposed to, continuing to butcher and destroy her for profit. But in order to achieve that goal, we need to set down, abdicate, and heal ourselves from all of the ideological conditioning and its subsequent trauma that has programmed us to look at this living womb, reject its aliveness, and choose willingly, willfully, to only allow ourselves to see a collection of inanimate objects available at our disposal to destroy, consume, and profiteer on. We got to get over that bit before we can really realign ourselves, right? If you want to be in tune with nature, we need to confront these facts and not just keep kicking the can down the road. At least, that is my humble opinion. As always, friends, I thank you for tuning in and checking it out. As you start your day, remember, no matter how crazy life gets, no matter how stressful the world seems, you, as an individual and as a member of the human spiritual collective, you are being invited to heal. Not to fight, not to butcher each other, not to stress out, not to freak out, not to loathe yourself, not to hate each other, but to heal. And that the more we step up and into that, which brings me finally full circle to what the hell I titled this episode today. The only way out is in. I'm just rambling about stuff and politics and coronavirus and blah, 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 blah. Let's tie it all together. It's easy to look out into the world and go, it's crazy. I don't understand. Might as well just blow each other up. Might as well just kapow, kapow, kapow. And that's depressing. But part of the problem is that we seek a way out. We seek a way out of this context that we are inseparable from. We seek a way out from this living dream, which we are simultaneously the dreamer of and the content within the dream, right? We seek to escape the very bonds of ourselves. And, well, maybe there is no escape. Maybe there is nowhere else to go. Maybe to leave this place is to just return to it. Because it's everywhere. Because it's infinity. Because life is that which is. And everything else is just a process that brings us to that. To this phenomenon called life. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, friends. So remember that I'm not insisting that you agree with me. I'm just encouraging you to contemplate the words and ideas and the call to action as I perceive it. And that call to action, friends, for those of you who may be curiously wondering, that call to action is immediate, it's incredibly pertinent, and it has everything to do with what everyone wants, which is for the world to be a better place for all that are here, not just for those with the most power and money. I think that's what we all want, right? At least I think that is what we all really want, underneath the bullshit, deep down. And to try and bring it home and rein it all in, quite frankly, as one wise observer of the Matrix put it, he who seeks out there sleeps, he who searches within awakens. That was a terrible paraphrasing and butchering of who said that? Not Robert Cohen. Not Nietzsche. Jeez Louise. Why is my brain... I've quoted him before. You know who it is. It's not Nietzsche. Why does my friend... Friedrich Nietzsche. No. It wasn't Freud either. It's that other guy. It's the guy that isn't Freud. Anyways, I'm just sputtering to a weak end here. As always, thanks for tuning in. I may or may not be back today, depending on how the cookie crumbles. But for now, may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart. And remember, you can change the world right now by being a better human. Just be a better version of yourself and start there. Remember, folks, the system of oppression wants you to live in fear, not in joy. Wants you to live in argumentation, not in collaboration. Wants you to fear and reject and neglect the very spiritual duty, the very spiritual calling, the spiritual work that we are here to do. And I hate to sound sarcastic or bitter, but they've been getting away with successfully doing that for a very long time.
you.